Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleka TV. My name is JIBRIN. I am bringing you something that has to do, a topic that has to do with oil subsidy. It's about oil subsidy and Tinubu's hypocrisy about this oil subsidy. It's about an article he wrote on his daily newspaper, The Nation. So I think about around 2012, during the Jonathan's regime, administration rather. We shall be going through that article. That article sounds interesting. It's refreshing. That's just the truth. I hope the Tinubu himself goes through reads through this article. Let him see and understand how he really has shot himself in the foot. So that is it. Please follow me, and we shall go through this article together. At the end of the article, and I will give out my opinion about it all. Join me on the next page. All right. Thank you for still being there with us. Yeah, this is the article. Um, the article says that Tinubu's accurate 12. That's the title. Tinubu's accurate 12-year-old prediction on subsidy removal effects. Now that was about I think on January 20. Okay, let me just let's read through together. This is the article. On January 11, 2012, Bola Ahmed Tinubu published a sober, thoughtful, deeply insightful, and penetratingly foresightful article titled "Removal of Oil Subsidy." President Jonathan breaks social contract with the people, says Tinubu, that uncannily prefigured the untoward consequences of petrol subsidy removal that Nigerians are currently grappling with. The article has trended on social media in the last couple of weeks, but I had never taken the trouble to read it until multiple people who I regard highly sent it to me in what seemed like a coordinated torrent of forwards. But after reading the 4,000 plus word article and finding out that it predicted the current petrol subsidy removal mass excruciating Nigeria is, I beg your pardon. But after reading the 4,000 plus word article and finding out that it predicted the current petrol subsidy removal mass excruciating Nigeria is suffering with almost mathematical exactitude, I became suspicious of its authenticity. It was too good to be true. My incredulity compelled me to make inquiries, which led me to realize that the Nigerian Tribune had actually fact checked the genuineness of the article on May 31st, 2023. It only found that it wasn't fake, but also scanned and uploaded a printed copy of the article published in the Nation, Tinubu's paper. I encourage everyone to read it. In the article, Tinubu derided the 2012 removal of petrol subsidies as the Jonathan tax, and the following paragraphs are particularly noteworthy for the mysterious precision of their prescience. Government claims, according to Tinubu, government claims the subsidy removal will create jobs. The stronger truth is that it will destroy more jobs than it creates. For every job it creates in the capital-intensive petroleum sector, it will terminate several jobs in the rest of the labor-intensive economy. Subsidy removal will increase costs across the board. However, salaries will not increase. This means demand for goods will lessen as will sales volumes, as we sell volumes and overall economic activity. The removal will have a recessionary impact on the economy as a whole. While some will benefit from the removal, most will experience setback. Con- uh, Continued. The article continues. What is doubtful is that the Jonathan tax will increase the price of petrol, transportation, and most consumer items. With fuel prices increasing twofold or more, transportation costs will roughly double. Prices of good staples will increase between 25 and 50% to 50%. Yeah, between 25 and 50%. It continues. Most people comes sorry, most people's incomes are low and stagnant. They have no way to augment revenue and little room to lower expenses, for they know no luxuries. Of course, the income, this is just the truth. The income obviously does not have any room, no any room for adjustment. The income, the budget has been maxed based on the income. So there is no room for adjustment, downward adjustment. For instance, they say, okay, cut your coat according to the material you have, the size of material you have. That means live within your means. This situation, this subsidy issue, what this is telling us that this subsidy issue, even the issue of live this that phrase of living within your means, it's even it makes nonsense of it. That is even uh, at this juncture, you can't even live within your means, as because what you have cannot even afford to even squeeze you, compel you to live within your means. And that is I think that is what this paragraph saying. Most people, I repeat it, most people's income are low and stagnant. They have no way to augment revenue and little room to lower expenses, for they know no luxuries. Of course, they are already tapped out. That is it. The only alternative they have is to fend as best they can, knowing they must somehow subtract something from their already bare existence. There will be less food, less medicine, and less school across the land. More children will cry in hunger, and more parents will cry at their children's despair. People and middle class consumers will spend the same amount to buy much less. The volume of economic activity will drop like a stone tossed from a high building. This means real levels of demand will sink. The middle class, to which our small businessmen belong, will find their profit margins squeezed because they will face higher costs and reduced sales volumes. These small firms employ vast numbers of Nigerians. They will be hard pressed to maintain current employment levels given the high cost and lower revenues they will face, because the middle class businessman will be pinched. Those who depend on the businessmen for employment will be heavily pressed. States that earn significant revenue from internally generated funds will find their positions damaged. Internally generated revenue will decline because of the pressure on general economic activity. The Jonathan tax will push Nigeria toward an inflation recession. Combine, I beg your pardon. The Jonathan tax will push Nigeria toward an inflation recession combination. Punch was this doesn't sound. I repeat, the Jonathan tax will push Nigeria toward an inflation recession combination punch worse than the one that has Europe reeling. This tax has doomed Nigeria to extra hardship for years to come, while the promised benefits of deregulation will never be substantially realized. People will starve and families crumble while federal officials praise themselves for saving money. The purported savings amount to nothing more than an accounting entry on the government ledger board. They bear no indication of the real state of the economy or the great harm done the people by this miserly step. Like I have done for years, Tinubu also fulminated against European conservatives whose economic prescriptions are at variance with the needs of the Nigerian populace. He said, now, I think I have to cut because I'll probably explain the whole article or whatever. Then, now, let me explain. The whole thing is this was an article written by Tinubu about so in 2000 and 2012 on I think Nation's newspaper. That newspaper belongs to Tinubu, of course. So the what Tinubu wrote then, you all had it. You can let me scroll through. You can read through it, and probably you can actually go Google the article. You find the article online, and you read for yourself that Tinubu have everything happening today. The the repercussion of the subsidy he removed on the day he was sworn in into the presidency after rigging himself, bulldozing himself to power. That is the repercussion. That's exactly what we are experiencing. This article is what Tinubu wrote then. Um, in opposition to Jonathan then, who partially removed oil subsidy. Tinubu, I think, wrote this article to warn Jonathan regime of what will be the repercussion of the possible repercussion of that oil subsidy. Now, this was Tinubu writing then, admonishing and warning Tinubu against opposing the issue of removing oil subsidy, petroleum subsidy, and everything, basically everything he wrote will amount to the repercussion of the oil subsidy is exactly what Nigeria is facing today. Now, this issue of oil subsidy, the repercussion, I don't think it doesn't require a professor in economics to actually comprehend or define or explain what will be the repercussion of the negative repercussion of oil subsidy if it is removed. Honestly, it's common mathematics. It's common sense. We all know. I think I've analyzed this in my previous segment or previous programs. That our economy is driven by virtually all global economy is driven by transportation, and transportation is driven by petroleum products. Call it aviation, call it sea, ports, call it road, call it rail. All of them, everything I just mentioned, are all vehicle of transportation. They are all elements of transportation, and everything revolves around petroleum products. Aviation fuel, diesel, gas, petrol, kerosene, and others. Liquefied natural. Okay, I mentioned gas. So that is it. Everything boils down to that. The moment you jack up the price of a raw material, it automatically by default trickles down to every end product, either procedural or end product of that particular raw material. That is just that is a common sense calculation. It doesn't require you to be to have doctorate or be a professor in economics for you to understand that this is the basic tenet of economy. And now that brings me back to look. That's exactly what Tinubu warned Jonathan's government then about this issue of removing oil subsidy is exactly what he did. Just like Jonathan, he did it, and what we Nigerians are passing through right now. Everything is affected. education, transportation, small business, entire small business is being crushed at this moment. So everything is rising. While everything is rising, prices of items and commodities are rising. Cost of living is falling so fast that we can't that the income does not know they can no longer be commensurate or measure up to the cost of living. So that is the problem, that is the dilemma, that is the precarious situation that Bola Tinubu has brought Nigeria into. We are right now on our knees. Everything is going, and unfortunately, it will even get worse. It will get worse. That's the unfortunate situation. Now, the problem is this. Honestly, I think when he wrote this article, he meant it. He wrote this article. Tinubu, that's when I say when I mean Tinubu himself, when he wrote this article in 2012. He meant it. He was serious. He was sincere. He was genuine. He actually wrote this based on his conviction. Of course, this is a simple mathematics, sort of. So it's obvious. There is nothing too difficult, too dynamic, or too complex about this, or complicated about it. So that is just to say he meant it. But you ask yourself, this same Tinubu that wrote this article several years ago, actually believed in this article. How come this same Tinubu now became president instead of heeding to his own caution, his own warning, and toying along his idea of the repercussion of what becomes of Nigeria should subsidy be removed? Now, this same person did not only reneged in his own idea, in his idea and advice. He went ahead on the day he was sworn in, huh? On his inauguration day. That was the first thing he did. The worst gift you can ever give to man. He removed, especially Nigerians. That was the day he removed fuel subsidy. You ask yourself, why would such a man do such thing? Why would such person shoot himself in the foot? Why? Why would such a man shoot himself in the feet? That is the point. Now, I'll give you the answer why. Like I said, he believed in all this stuff or whatever, what he wrote then. But there's a problem, and that problem is what I have always mentioned from day one. The problem we have with Bola Tinubu, the problem we will keep having with Bola Tinubu, the problem we will perpetually have with Bola Tinubu as long as he remains the rigged president that we never voted for. And that brings me down to IMF. Now, let me bring you down to the back to the end of this article, talking about IMF. Okay, for second to the last paragraph, there is no doubt that it's the IMF and its evil twin, the World Bank, that are ruling Nigeria. Tinubu's government is just a proxy. For example, just 2 days after the IMF told Tinubu he must remove electricity subsidies, he had no clue such a thing existed, given the unreliable electricity in Nigeria. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu and Adelabu announced that the government would withdraw electricity subsidies. The same IMF has also instructed that the surreptitious subsidies the Tinubu administration is paying to stop petrol prices from getting to or even rising above 1,000 a litre must be stopped. Get ready for another bumpy ride, Nigerians, until half the country drops dead from starvation. The IMF, which is the real government, in Nigeria won't rest. I can guarantee you that. Now, it brings me back to IMF. One, I asked earlier why, or you will ask, people will ask, why is it that this same man who wrote this article warning Goodluck Jonathan's government several years ago, now himself became president and he removed this oil subsidy? The answer is why sumptuous. The answer is simple. I've said it earlier over and over. Almost any time I talk about Nigeria and Tinubu, I always mention that issue, and that is the issue of blackmail. That is the issue of blackmail. Issue of blackmail. Now, what do you expect? The IMF, the World Bank, the global superpowers, the West will always control. Tinubu has always, they have all the weapon against Tinubu as a person. So they will always, Tinubu can never be in control. No matter, I've always emphasized on this, he can never be in charge. He can never be in control. Never, because the power has been taken away from him by himself. He took away the power from himself by the corrupt platform at which he assumed power. That is one. Secondly, the history of corruption around him globally. Like as everyone knows, the US have a dossier against him. The West have a dossier. The entire West, they have dossier against him. So they will keep not only manipulating him, they will keep controlling him. They will keep acting at their beck and call. That is just the truth. Their wish will always be his command. That is the basic truth, because they are holding him in his balls. They are holding his balls firmly, and they are not letting go. And that is why they supported him, because the West will always support the corrupt president. When it comes to Africa, they will always support a corrupt leader. That is just because they know that they need someone they can control. You can only control someone who is corrupt. Someone who you can blackmail, someone you can manipulate. Those are the people they always want to impose on us to be our leaders. Not people who are independent minded. Not people like Abacha who told them to go to hell. Abacha told them to go to hell. The president, all his time as the head of state, he never traveled out. With all the sanctions or whatever, Nigeria still survived. We even did much better than what we are, much better than what we are doing today. Such leader, and that's why they killed Abacha. That's the reason why they killed. Who could have been able to kill Abacha? A strong man like that, if not the West. That's why they planned to kill him, because he was not listening to them. And now came up Tinubu, a corrupt man. Everything about him is just corrupt. Somebody people don't know his background. No classmates from childhood, no neighbors growing up, nothing, no traces of his years of at least growing up as human being in Nigeria as Nigerian citizen. So that is the point. He's under blackmail. He's under control, because he will never have anything to offer. Absolutely nothing. Nothing to offer, because even if he wants to do something, they will squeeze him again by his balls. And that will call him to attention to attend to them. And that is just it. So it is so unfortunate that Nigeria will continue. Something has to be done about this Tinubu, because Tinubu should not and cannot continue to rule us for 8 years. We shouldn't allow this to happen to us. We shouldn't. Because Nigeria will never grow. We will just say that is exactly the truth. What this article, the last two lines, says, until half the country drops dead from starvation, the IMF, which is the real government in Nigeria, won't rest. IMF, World Bank, they are inhuman. They are wicked. They are callous. They are the ones ruling Africa, unfortunately, especially the poor countries. Nigeria is not supposed to be among the people IMF manipulates, because we have all the wherewithal, the capital wherewithal, the human wherewithal, the everything. We have the brains, we have the natural human resources, every kind of resources you can talk about is in Nigeria, available in commercial quantity in Nigeria. Why do we have to be weak? Why do our leaders have to be weak when we are so rich? Which rich man did they? And in fact, my problem is what is happening to Nigeria. It doesn't really add up. It doesn't make sense to me, because all I know, if you are rich, wealth means power. Because when you are rich, people listen to you. You are independent. People want to hear you say something. They want to know where to. They want you to speak, and others follow. And that is just to do. Wealth comes with power. That is the norm. That is the natural way life should work. Wealth comes with power. When you are wealthy, people want listens to you. Even if you are talking nonsense, they want to listen to you. Eh? If you are demanding for this, they want to give it to you. And that is just it. So, but in the case of Nigeria, we are rich. We have everything that nature can offer to someone. They are all prevalent. They are all domiciled. They are all available in Nigeria. We are that rich. Yet we have all the wealth. Yet we are powerful. We do not have a say. We can't administrate ourselves. We can't rule ourselves. We can't initiate ideas ourselves. We borrow everything. We borrow governance. We borrow everything, system of governance. We borrow everything. We copy this and copy that, copy everything. We're just copying and copying and copying and copying and copying. And talk about copying. Yeah, there are, like, the United States is a capitalist country. There are some other Western countries that are capitalist countries. I always tell people something. Look, capitalism. Look, I am a conservative person by nature, but I am not an ideologue. I am a pragmatic conservative. That is who I am. Some people may call it social conservative. I rather don't call it that way, but I just say I'm a pragmatic conservative, in the sense that you deal with every system based on the prevailing factor, the prevailing indices of that particular system or country or nation or state. You shouldn't Economy should not be run or ruled or administered in a blanket way, in a standard way for everyone. Use one brush to paint every country. Hell no. It shouldn't work that way. Why are we copying the US capitalism? Nigeria do not have the enabling environment. There's no set environment. There's no planned environment for the environment is no Nigerian environment is never ever good, ripe enough, not good for it is never it doesn't fit capitalist system. It does not. So what it means that there are areas that government have to subsidize our day-to-day life, just like this issue of petroleum subsidy. Why will government not pay for not subsidize petroleum products? Why will government not subsidize electricity? These are basic necessities of life in Nigeria, because we do not have the enabling environment to capitalize everything, to run the entire system as a capitalist nation. We are not capable of that. We are a third world country. We are not developed here. We are still developing. We are backward. We are far behind. We do not have all the system set in place to actually actualize this. That is the basic truth. That is the basic truth. So, I don't know. We have to stop this issue of subsidy. The government has to go back to subsidizing full subsidy for petroleum subsidy. Eh? Food subsidy. Government should subsidize that too for farmers. We need that. We need subsidy for farmers. Huh? We need subsidy for electricity. These are the three key or the most prominent elements that drives Nigeria, that can actually sustain Nigeria as a nation if taken care of. Agricultural subsidy, petroleum subsidy, electricity subsidy, power subsidy. These three, that is what will, the moment we keep these three parts of Nigerian sector, economic sector, are subsidized, then that is, at least that's a foundation to economic growth for Nigerians. Then we talk about other factors that should come behind it, because when you subsidize these three, it means that the middle class, you are giving energy, you are giving lifeline, you are giving blood transfusion to the middle class. Giving blood transfusion to the middle class, because the middle class is what sustains every economy. And Nigeria is not an exception. You have to taking off subsidy, removing subsidy from these three sectors, or basically means the death of the middle class. And the death of the middle class in any climate is the death of that nation. Technically. Tinubu should dip his head in shame. As I said earlier, Tinubu can never, nothing good can ever come from Tinubu. Even if I was discussing with one of my guests in the past on this issue. For some of you who watched that episode, even if Tinubu becomes a born again, decides to really repent and say, God, have mercy upon me. I repent. Now I want to do the right thing. He cannot achieve that right thing, because when the foundation, the Bible says, when the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? The foundation is faulty. Even if he chooses to do right thing, the powers that be in Nigeria, National Assembly, and that are within the paraphernalia of authority, they will fight him to stupor. The global superpowers, the global establishment, they will fight him to stupor. So they will frustrate him. And that is the gospel truth. I hope Nigerians will do the right thing, especially worst case scenario, at least in the year 2027, especially when we get to 2027, this man has to, because obviously we don't have anything, we don't have any other hope that anything can be done between now and 2027, other than the military taking over. That would be wonderful. Honestly, I would rather the military takes over. Yeah? And it's better we are under the military than under this that we found ourselves. Nigerians are dying. Nigerians are being killed. Nigerians are starving. May God help us. We just pray that God intervenes in the name. I would just hope that God intervenes in the name of Jesus. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I exercise restraint because no regrets for that, because I just felt I am dealing with my audience are all religions. So, but that is just it. May God help us. Please join us again on our next segment. Remain blessed.